Wisconsin Supreme Court Justice Rebecca Bradley announced today she will not seek re-election to Wisconsin's High Court. Charles Franklin is the director of the Marquette Law School poll. Charles, thanks for joining us on short notice here with this big announcement today. I want to start with a quote from Rebecca Bradley in her announcement saying, in part, Wisconsin has seen only the beginning of what is an alarming shift from thoughtful, principled judicial service toward bitter partisanship, personal attacks, and political gamesmanship that have no place in court. Adding, I believe the best path for me to rebuild the conservative movement and fight for liberty is not as a minority member of the court. Your thoughts on her announcement and her position in terms of partisanship in Wisconsin Supreme Court elections?
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing that she's dropped out at this point. You know, conservatives controlled the majority on the court for about 15 years, but Democrats or liberals have won 4 of the last 5 elections and took the majority a year ago and then added to that majority this year. So it is a change that's taken place, but it does come after a long period of conservative majorities. We had seen that Bradley had not raised any money in the first half of the year, which was pretty surprising for someone coming up on an election that's now only a few months away. That also leaves the door open for others to get in, but they have a shorter time to raise the money for this race and to organize a campaign. So her late decision probably puts any conservative candidates that may yet get in the race at a bit of a disadvantage instead of being able to have announced 6 or 8 months ago.
On the issue of politics in these races, I want to talk to you about some of the polling that you've done, and if you could share some numbers in terms of the desire from voters to have Supreme Court candidates talk specifically about the issues.
Yeah, this has been a debate within the judicial candidates. There are some limits on what they're supposed to be able to talk about in campaigns. But when we ask voters, upwards of 80% say they want the candidates to talk about the issues. Now, you have to do that without prejudging cases that might come before you. But on the other hand, to say nothing about those issues, how are voters supposed to decide who they should vote for? Voters are also really strong on continuing to elect judges rather than move to an appointment system. So we want to vote for them, but we'd like to know something more about them.
One of the big numbers in the last Supreme Court race here in Wisconsin, $115 million. That's the amount of money spent on this race, more than double the previous national record. Do you expect to meet or exceed that number when this next seat is now opening up?
I think it's likely that we'll see less total spending. A lot of that 115 million came from outside groups, independent expenditure groups, not from the candidates themselves. Because the majority's not up for grabs now, the liberals hold a 2-seat majority, so they could not flip that this time. I suspect that there will be less outside interest in the race. However, to slip another conservative seat down and add another liberal seat will certainly be a strong reason for conservatives and conservative groups to get involved in the race. And I don't think we'll see small amounts of spending at all. But whether we will break that record of 115 million this year, I'd be surprised, but I could be wrong about that.
All right. One hypothetical I want to talk about is this what will be an upcoming race whenever it is decided the election day for this race. Currently, we have the 4-3 majority for liberal-leaning justices. If a justice who replaces Rebecca Bradley is liberal-leaning, that would extend that majority to 5-2 in favor of liberal-leaning justices. If that happens, what do you think the future of the court could be for Wisconsin and how long that majority could last?
Well, we're going through a stretch where it's conservative justices who are either up for election or, like Bradley, drop out. But I think it's 3 years, we will reach the point where we run into a string of liberal justices coming up, beginning with Rebecca Dallet, and Brian Hagedorn's seat will be up fairly soon as well. So the conservative majority is facing a couple of years of conservative incumbents coming up. After that, though, there'll be a period in which it'll be a sequence of mostly liberal judges, with the exception of Hagedorn.
All right, we have to leave it there. Great to talk to you, Charles Franklin. Thanks for joining us with that insight, and have a good holiday weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Absolutely.